This is Rebecca Teasdale with the Embedding Evaluation in Libraries project. And this video focuses on using observations to gather data when conducting an evaluation in your library. Observations allow you to directly witness people's behavior, words, and interactions. And this is useful because people often don't know or can't articulate some of the information that we need in an evaluation. As a result, they can't tell us that information through a survey or an interview. For example, you might conduct a formal observation of storytime sessions in order to gather data about children's level of engagement or interaction. Or you might observe how patrons navigate the self-checkout process to identify barriers that need to be addressed. This is information that patrons probably won't be able to provide through a survey or interview. You might also want to use observations to bypass respondents' reporting of information and see what's happening firsthand. This can be useful because people's perception of their own behavior or interactions may differ from their actual behavior or interactions. So, for example, you might conduct an observation of a computer class to gather data about participants' skills before and after the class. This would allow you to see participants' skills for yourself, rather than relying on their perception of their skills. You can also use observation to gather data about a setting to understand what it looks like and sounds like, and what activities take place there. So, for example, you might conduct an observation of the play area in your children's department to determine how many children and adults stop to play in the area and how much the different toys and play structures are used. Staff probably have a sense of this information because they work in the area every day, but it's unlikely that they have the time to focus carefully on the play area and systematically record data about its use. As a result, we sometimes find that people's perceptions of the use of an area or other characteristics of a setting may vary from what we see when we conduct a formal observation. Observations can shed light on what is taking place and how it's unfolding. But it's important to remember that they usually won't help you understand the reasons that those things are happening. To conduct observations in your library, the first step is to develop specific, clearly defined evaluation questions that you're going to seek to answer by conducting the observations. Then you'll be able to decide what type of observation data you need in order to answer your questions. Observations can be used to collect two different kinds of data. First, you can gather descriptive information about the setting and people's words, behaviors, and interactions. To do this, you'll write down detailed, concrete descriptions of what you see and hear. A good way to do this is by writing down a moment-by-moment account of what you observe, including the words that you hear people say. Depending on your evaluation questions, you might also record other concrete sensory information, such as the temperature or odors that you experience. The idea is to capture specific, concrete details and avoid making generalizations, providing vague descriptions, or interpreting what you see and hear. This type of observation data paints a picture of what a setting is like, what's taking place, or how the action is unfolding. And those data are then analyzed to identify themes and patterns. A second kind of data you can capture through observations is quantitative information about the setting and about people's words, behaviors, and interactions. To do this, you would record the number of times you see or hear specific actions, words, behaviors, or interactions. This type of observation data is focused on tabulating very specific occurrences during your observation session. And then the data are summarized and analyzed using descriptive statistics. Once you know which type of data you need to answer your questions, you'll develop an observation guide that you will use to direct your attention during the observation and record your data. An observation guide is helpful because it's likely that you'll be observing a program or setting that has a lot of activity going on. So for example, when observing a storytime session, you could focus your attention on what the librarian is doing and saying, how the children are responding and engaging, how caregivers are engaging and interacting, or what the environment is like in the storytime room. Your observation guide will help focus your attention and make sure that you capture the type of data that you need to answer your evaluation questions. When it comes time to conduct your observations, you'll need to obtain informed consent from the people that you're observing. If you're observing people as they use the library, you can do this by posting a sign. If you're observing a program or event, you can make a brief announcement. For more information about obtaining informed consent, you can view the informed consent video in this series. After obtaining informed consent, you'll want to position yourself where you can see and hear the activity you're observing while remaining relatively unobtrusive. Because you're there to observe the activities and interactions as they normally occur, you'll want to avoid disrupting those activities and interactions to the extent possible. This includes choosing a method for recording your data that will be the least disruptive. Depending on the setting, you can record your data using a laptop, pen and paper, or a mobile device like a tablet or cell phone. Ideally, multiple people will serve as observers. Using multiple observers can help capture more detailed, descriptive data because different people naturally notice different things. And it can serve as a double check that the quantitative data gathered are accurate. If you're working with multiple observers, you'll want to do a pilot test and then review everyone's responses to determine the extent to which they are in agreement or complement one another, depending on the type of data that you're gathering. Based on this analysis, you can revise the guide before conducting your study. Once your observations are complete, your final step is to ensure that your data are securely stored and ready for analysis. To learn more about conducting observations, you can consult an evaluation brief from the Centers for Disease Control and a resource from the Cottage Health Evaluation Toolkit. While both of these focus on evaluation of health-related programs, the information they provide about conducting observations is very relevant to evaluation in libraries. And for more information about embedding evaluation in your library, visit our website at libraryeval.org.